I mean, I knew that it was getting worse and worse and worse, but I had no way to get out of it. And so it had evolved so fast and so furiously that my parents obviously had no idea what to do.
What is up, everybody? And welcome back to the Schooling Struggle Podcast. It is our belief that the only guarantee in life is that we're all going to struggle. And how we choose to embrace our struggles is what empowers us to become the best versions of ourselves. My name is Pete. With me is my friend and co-host, Todd. I am coming to you from the thriving metropolis of Heartland, Vermont, with a population of around 3,000 people. Todd is coming to you from Tacoma, Washington. What's up, Todd?
What is happening, Peter?
What is the population in Tacoma?
Way more than wherever you're at. I'm quite certain about that.
I bet your town has a stoplight. Mine doesn't.
I have a stoplight not even 50 yards from my home.
Oh, man.
Blow through all the time.
I'm going to warn you and the listeners, I am on fire right now. This has just been an amazing, amazing day for me, and we're just going to keep this thing rolling.
All right. Tell me one thing that's been amazing that sets you on fire today.
I have a student who is training to be a professional snowcross racer. So for those that don't know, snowcross is racing on snowmobiles with jumps, bumps, and berms. Think of like motocross on snow, basically.
Okay.
And I've known him since kindergarten, and I started training with him when he was in 7th grade. And he has been racing snowmobiles as long as I can remember. I think he started when he was 8 years old. And he spends the winter basically out in the Midwest where snowcross is its biggest. It's biggest in like Minnesota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, North Dakota, that area. Mm-hmm. And he came home recently from his season. He won his season. He crushed it. He's in 2 steps below the pros.
Nice.
And next year he moves up to the step below the pros. And then within the next 2 years, he should be full pro. And he says he wants to be the best pro in the world in 3 years from now. And
how old is this guy now?
He is 17.
Oh, man, that's cool.
And he is very, very committed. And he sent me a text and said, "Hey, Mr. D, can we start working out together again?" And I wrote back and said, "Sure, but the only time that's available is 5 to 6:30 a.m. And so I'll see you in my garage at 5 o'clock whenever you're ready." And he showed up this morning at 5 o'clock, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to attack the day. And I have not worked out with somebody that early in the morning since another former student of mine went away to college 4 years ago. And I was just so grateful to have a workout partner this morning. So big love to Adam for joining me for a solid squat workout with a whole bunch of other stuff. We went toe-to-toe, bell to bell from 5 to 6:30 this morning. So it was awesome.
Is Adam going to be sore in the morning?
Yes.
He work out all the time.
Classic 17-year-old. He goes, "Mr. D, I am so out of shape. I haven't worked out in so long." I go, "How long?" He goes, 2 weeks. I go,
"Yeah, right.
You're 17. You're not out of shape."
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good luck, Adam, with your endeavors in the pro circuit of snowcross. Yeah. Is that what they call it? Snowcross?
Snowcross. Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool.
He is amazing. Yeah. And then I'm gonna add to that. I had something happen today in school that's never happened to me before. That could be one of the coolest things that's ever happened in my 16-year career. So I think it's going to be hard to kind of set the stage for this, but you can imagine after having taught in the high school for 4 years, some of the deeper relationships that I developed with kids that are now seniors. I've known them for 4 years, and we've developed these deep connections. And in addition to that, the timing of my career right now is at a really interesting place because I taught at my former school for 12 years and then came over 4 years ago to the high school. Mm-hmm. And the school that I taught at prior is a feeder school to the high school that I'm now at. So the kids that are seniors now in grade 12, I have been their PE teacher since they were in kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
So I've been their PE teacher for 13 years. And many of these kids may as well be my kids or my extended family or my friends. And I just have these really very unique, deep connections. And I understand that it's never going to be that way again because the longer I stay in the high school, the less kids I'll know coming up through the younger schools. So I had this kid. I'm going to give big love to Alex today because Alex, he goes, "Hey, Mr. D, come here for a second." I go, "What?" He goes, "Does my shirt smell?" And he pulls his shirt away from his stomach and his chest for me to smell it. And as I go to smell his shirt, he kisses me on the top of the head. He goes, "What? Gotcha." and everyone sitting around was laughing so hard. I was like, "You got me." That may be the coolest thing that anyone has ever done to me in my entire life, and definitely in a school. So big love to Alex for getting me, and he kissed me on the top of the head, and he goes, "I just want you to know, you're the only teacher in the world that I would ever kiss on the top of the head." Now, I did have a hat on, so there was a buffer there, but yeah, he got me good. So
wow. Nothing but love for little Drisk. Way to go, buddy.
Now you can see why I'm on fire today.
Yeah,
like,
you are
great. These great things happening.
For those who cannot see the video, because we don't publish it yet, Peter is nothing but sunshine and smiles over here.
If anyone that's listening that is either not in school anymore or long beyond their school years, you might remember like how exciting the spring is in the school year. It's like, especially in Vermont, like all the snow melts and the spring is so short because it's not long after the snow melts that school gets out. And it's just my absolute favorite time of the year. It's just like there's so much energy. We can get outside again. We can open the doors, open the windows. It's just awesome. So yeah, I'm in my favorite part of the school year, and things are blossoming.
Nice work.
Good to see those good. Smiles. My body feels good.
Yeah, I can feel your vibe through the teleprompter. It's great.
My smile is not nearly as nice as your mustache.
I don't know.
As
about
nice
that.
as my smile may be.
We could have a dueling brainstorm session. Here we go.
All right. Let's get into this.
Go ahead.
Okay.
What do you got?
Here's what I got. 4 days ago, I was leaving the school, and as I was driving out of the school, I saw my assistant superintendent kind of walking along the sidewalk toward the intersection in front of my school. And I think he's the best, so I roll my window down and start hollering at him like I do with everybody.
Did you tell him to smell my shirt?
Oh, no, he listens to this. I won't be able to get it with that trick. I'll have to get somebody else. And I kind of like pull over just to give him a shout and say what's up. And I pull over in the middle of this intersection, 4-way intersection with lights and the whole deal. But it's Vermont, so it's not that big of a deal. There aren't very many cars. And the cars that do like come through, they just go slowly and they just like, they're cool with it. Like they don't give you the horn or get upset. They just kind of go around.
You get shot at my house if that happens.
I started talking to him and we started getting this deep conversation in the middle of this intersection. So I kind of pull over in a really even more awkward space in this intersection, and like cars are going both ways past me while he's just standing there talking to me. We were both safe, but it was just an awkward place where I chose to park. And he goes, "Hey, I just want to let you know." He goes, "I'm loving the podcast." I go, "Oh, that's awesome. I'm psyched to hear that." He goes, "But I want to hear more about Todd's backstory." And I go, "It's funny that you say that because that's the single biggest piece of feedback that I've been getting in the last 2 months."
Really?
Like, yeah, Todd needs to share a little bit more about his backstory because he's got a lot there that we don't know yet. And I go, it's so, his name is Roy. I go, "Roy, it's so funny that you say that because I was thinking about the next episode, digging a little deeper into asking Todd about some of his past." And he turns and he looks at the school building. So it's like behind him. So it's like a 180-degree rotation. And he points at the building and he goes, "Every student in that school is a savant with something. And I know that Todd is a savant. How did he make that connection to become a savant?" And for those that are listening, the definition of savant is a person of learning, especially one with detailed knowledge in some specialized field. And he sees you the same way I see you, a savant in mindfulness and self-reflection. And he goes, "And I think that I heard that he did not graduate high school." He goes, "I want every student in that building," and he points back to the building, and he goes, "I want every student in that building to feel valued and to feel that they bring value to our community." He goes, "I want to know about how Todd went from where he was to where he is now." And I just thought that was really, really cool. And there's been a lot of questions that I've had about your backstory that we haven't gone into because we've been talking about other things. But I wanted to take the opportunity tonight to dig a little deeper there.
Get your shovel out. Let's go.
And as we've said in the past, if I ask anything that is out of bounds or uncomfortable,
Sure.
You have the green light to say, don't want to go there with that one.
Okay. Hit me with your best shot. Fire away.
So you're probably familiar with the term rubbernecking. Rubbernecking is when there's an accident on one side of the highway and the other side of the highway is backed up because everyone's slowing down, looking at the accident, and there is massive traffic on the side where there actually was no accident. Because I think the the shocking or the crazy is sometimes what people are interested in. And where I want to pick up your personal story, and for those that don't know, most of Todd's story that we talked about in the past, I believe it was episode 3. Don't quote me on that, but it's called Todd's Journey, somewhere in the very early stages of this podcast. He talked about how he got involved in relying on substances during his high school years, or maybe it was your middle school years. I don't remember exactly. But I want to ask you about how that unfolded, what substance became your kryptonite, and at what point in your journey did you start to feel that you were adding value to your community, and when did that shift start to happen? But we're going to get into that a little bit down the road in this conversation. First, I just kind of want to, if you could set the background or the setting for us for your middle school or high school years, and no detail is too small. Like, I want to know the color of the brush that you brush your hair with in the morning before you went to school. Like you're a very, very humble guy who doesn't want the attention on you, and you're really good at not seeking that, but I'm seeking that tonight. So I'm going to ask that you kind of you can pick up where you think is a good spot to start, but your middle school and high school years when substances became prevalent in your life.
Here's a question I can answer. This is a good one because I get to talk about it. You're right that I absolutely hate talking about myself in ways that other people, not that other people are curious in, but in ways that I feel like people could misconstrue it as gloating. So I'm going to wrap the entire present in that. And because you're so interested, I'll go as deep as I can. I've made this statement before, but I tend to forget where I'm at sometimes. I'll ramble into a hole and then I won't remember where I went or where I got there. So feel free to interrupt me and break me off anytime.
So before you ramble, I'm just going to say to the listeners that I say this with 100% genuine honesty, is that you are one of the most humble human beings that I've ever met. So you have the freedom to not feel like you're gloating or that you're being judged in any way, but just that you can share with us so that we can learn.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. I think the entry point for the really good stuff, I think the things that maybe you want to know or that other people would care to hear, is kind of when it all started going sideways and from what it was. And so I don't know, it's hard to articulate what it was, but yeah, I think right where the wheel started to wobble is the most, or some of the most important parts. And so I was it actually starts in 5th grade. So 5th grade actually starts before that. Hold on, let me wind this back. In the context of the people that I believe you and that person in the intersection hope this can reach, I think that it's important to go back to where the seed was planted. So I'm going to go back before that. So I lived in California. So I moved from Tacoma, where I had always been to school and always lived, to California. And then in California, there were things that unfolded for me in that classroom in 3rd grade where it became evident to other people around me that I was different than other people in that classroom or in that setting. And so I thought, in my mind, my third grader mind, that, well, it's probably different because the difference between where I had come from, I moved to a new place, and now I'm seen as different. And so there was typical things that went on, bullying on the school grounds, things like this that I'd never experienced before because I had always grown up holistically with this group of individuals and up until the point where I moved. And so to the point where I moved to California, I felt pretty good. I was like, oh, school's great. All my friends are here. It's good times on the playground. Everything's good. And so when I got to California, I remember clearly thinking, this kid is now bullying me. These people aren't accepting me. And so it kind of began this secluded or detached feeling of self, I guess is the best way to put it. And so I remember then my parents were like, well, what does this mean? How is this going to work? Blah, blah, blah. And so as I went to 4th grade, they were looking for options about what that meant in the way that my behavior would manifest. So I've shared this before and I share this openly. I have ADHD, like pretty bad. And I've always been a wild kid. Right. And so apparently they felt like that was part of the problem, quote unquote problem. And so I started going to doctors there, and then, ADHD diagnosis was kind of a new thing. And then they put me on this miracle drug, which wasn't. And that's kind of where the entry point of this story begins. Right. And so clearly at some point, I remember that I was looked at differently and applied a labelistic, if that's a word, a label amongst other people. And that, wasn't just at the school. I wasn't just, Todd, the crazy ADHD kid at school. Then it was my family. And I'm thinking, okay, now my sisters look at me different. And, then there's things like, well, why does Todd get away with this? As opposed to, where before it was just he didn't. And so like all of those things begin to build, and I clearly believe that those things add to who you become, as like that baggage that you carry with you becomes the things that you take with you on to the rest of your journey. And so if I think back that far, then we moved back to Washington, 4th or 5th grade. And then I did 4th and 5th grade, trying to fall back in with the kids that I had been in school with, before I left. And so I kind of fell back in. It was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, it's all my same friends, but now I'm different because now I'm looked at differently. I have to go somewhere at lunchtime, and, I have to have a teacher talking about, well, you need to go take your medication, blah, 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 this, that, and another thing. So it just added to that. Then when I got to 5th grade, and I don't know what happened there, but when I got to 5th grade, my parents held me back in 5th grade. And so then I lost all of my friends. They went on, to the 6th grade journey in the middle school. And then I went to another school in the same district, but with different people. Like, I'd never met these people, but they're in 5th grade. And now here's another layer. I'm in 5th grade again. Right. So it's like, you're just adding these layers of weirdness on top of a kid that's already feeling, different. And so those things just kind of culminated. And so 5th grade, it was awkward. It was probably the best teacher I'd ever had, actually was in 5th grade in retrospect, because that teacher entertained different ways of, like, he would know that I had way too much energy. So he'd be like, hey, let's go out and run a couple laps around the playground or something. And everybody's like, oh yeah, we get to go. But clearly he was just trying to get me, so he would come up with creative ways to get that to happen. And so Mr. D Jardine, he was probably the best teacher I've ever had, in the fact that I felt seen in his eyes. And like, he would push back against my parents in ways that other teachers didn't. They just kind of were like, oh, whatever. And he was like, nah, maybe we should do these other things. So that was pretty cool. But all that to say, I did 5th grade twice. Then I came back to Ford Middle School, went to 6th grade. And by then I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing pretty good. I had the encouragement of that teacher, and I was with a new set of kids. So then when I went to middle school, I went back to the other side of the district. And so now the friends that I had in 5th grade the first time were now 7th graders. So another awkward layer of, oh, now you're here, but you're a 6th grader. Like, how's that work? Where'd you go? And, so trying to catch up with that. And then in seventh, go ahead.
I'm gonna interrupt, just to give a little context. Back then, like, if you weren't hanging out with people every day, you didn't really know what anyone else was doing. There was no social media. There was no Facebook. Now, if I can befriend another kid in another high school because we can just be in touch. But back then, it was out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
If a kid wasn't in your circle group, you didn't know what that kid was up to. So
Absolutely.
The fact that your friends were actually legitimately confused when you returned back in a different grade is a very real thing that happened back then that some people today might not understand. The other thing that I was just going to say is that my older brother was held back in 3rd grade, and my mom today wishes that didn't happen. And at least in Vermont, I can only speak to Vermont, but retaining kids in grades is a very incredibly rare occurrence in comparison to what it was when we were growing up. So it's just something that basically doesn't happen, at least in the school systems in the districts that I've worked in. Your experience from that is, I think, part of the reason why they're recognizing the social trauma of that.
Oh, yeah, probably. Well, I mean, there's definitely some trauma that goes with it. It was never clear to me, like, what the reasoning was, because clearly I could do my work, and clearly I knew all my, it wasn't like I failed out. Like, I could see if you bombed out, I don't even think they would hold you back in any elementary school grade now. It's like,
no,
those standards are not like something that you have to achieve, right? It's like,
so you go to back with your original friends, but now they're in 7th and you're in 6th.
Yeah.
Okay. So take me through that.
So that's where so 6th grade, 7th grade, pretty much 6th grade, like, I was always like a really good student. Like, I did my best. I went to school all the time, because I realized, like, I always carried this weight of, is this going to happen again? Right? Like, I better do pretty good, or else you never know what's going to happen. Right.
You strike me as somebody now who is very interested in learning. Were you then as well?
Things that interest me, sure, like wood shop, metal shop, things like that. But algebra, math, not so much. Right. So
stuff that was forced on you. Yep.
Absolutely. So 6th grade was great. 4.0 student. 7th grade, the beginning, the first, I don't know, 3/4, I guess, was fantastic. And then I don't know what switched, but I don't. This kind of jogged in my mind. I don't know the exact chronological order of this because it's kind of cloudy. But I met my friend named Marvin, and we had this group of friends that were all, just whatever. We were just kind of like, it's kind of like Stand By Me. Like we were always together all the time, so we were just kind of one and the same. And Marvin came to our school from a different school in Tacoma, and he just immediately fell into our little group of our little posse, right? And so Marvin's mom smoked weed, and we would go to Marvin's house. And this is the early '90s, so like you can imagine all the gangster rap, like all the cool things, right? And Marvin's mom had a boyfriend, and he would spin records in the basement, and they would have parties. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like I can go from a place where my family was pretty homogenous. We would eat dinner at the same time all together. My grandparents lived in the backyard. It was like it's always been like this family thing, but not in a way that was like had any outlets of freedom like that, like where you could go and just be
So from the
yourself.
outside looking in, you had a very functional family. Like parents were married, you had
Absolutely.
siblings,
Absolutely. Yep.
white
Absolutely.
picket fence, the whole deal. Okay.
The whole thing. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep.
Both my grandparents live in town. Like we all spend time in the.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Financially secure.
Yep.
Everything.
All those
Yep.
things. No problem. But Marvin was exactly the opposite, right? Like his mom would be at work all the time, working 2 jobs. He had a sister that he rarely saw sometimes. It was like, his mom and dad were separated. His dad lived, 30 miles away, but then we would go to his dad's house and it was a different set of rules. So it was everything was different than what I had experienced. And so I kind of glommed onto that. I was like, wow, this is really cool. And so one day Marvin came to school and he's like, hey man, I've stolen one of my mom's joints. And I was like, oh, okay. And then, all my other buddies were like, oh, let's see what this is about. And so that's where that started. Right. And so at first, when you're a kid, it's hard to get weed. I mean, even back in the days in the '90s, it was like, oh, I don't know where we're going to get this. But, as you get older, that becomes continually easier. As I aged to that progression of 7th and 8th grade, with that went all of the good intent I had, or all of the positive, the things that people saw as positive, or, maybe were positive, however you look at it. And 7th grade, like the end of 7th grade, I was borderline, I was always in detention. I'm, like a lunch detention, after school detention. I get suspended a few times. 8th grade was just an extension of that. Like I just came back to school. I was like, whatever, like I have to do 8th grade because where am I going to go? Right. And so it just devolved, I guess is a better way to look at it, until somewhere in my sophomore year at high school. Like it just got worse and worse and worse. And the decisions that I made just got worse and worse and worse. And so
was your relationship with your parents eroding?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely. Because they would keep trying to do things. Like I remember them sending me to, I remember like probably in 8th or 9th grade, they tried to get me into like disabled classes. Like so I'm doing ink blot tests and these crazy blocks and things. And it just kept adding to the fact that I was different. Nobody was actually caring about the fact that I could actually be a unique individual, but somehow I was getting clouded in this way that I couldn't get out of. Right. And so those things just kept building. And then, I remember, I was just thinking the other day, I remember clearly waking up, sleeping in a car in my front yard, because at some point before my parents got home, I would take off and go to the lake because I knew they were going to tell me no. And so I would just, and then they're not letting me back in the house. So I would just wake up, sleep in the front yard. And I was thinking, just the other day, I was just thinking this. I was like, I wonder what my dad thought when he woke up and I'm out front sleeping in the car. You're like, oh, good morning, Dad. You going to work? Yeah. When are you going to go away? So I don't know. So anyways, all of that got worse and worse. And then, so that was kind of the school story. Middle of my sophomore year, I realized there was no way in hell that I was ever going to graduate. And so then it became enter the workforce and all the next steps. So I don't know where you want to go from, but I do think that there's definitely a.
So was there a time when you're like, I am officially done with school? Like I
absolutely.
am officially dropping out. I don't care what anybody says. I'm done.
Yeah. So from the middle of my sophomore year, moment? Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to school much. Let's be honest. Like I would go to lunch and then I would come home and then I'd wait for school to get out so I could go walk up to the school and then get my girlfriend and walk her home. So it was like, clearly I wasn't interested in school because it's an uphill battle. Like, what are you going to do? There's no way. What's the point? Right. So that's how I looked at it.
Almost like my superintendent was saying, my assistant superintendent, you didn't see value in going and you didn't feel like you added value to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was zero interaction there. Like I said, like I can go to lunch and be a clown and, go hacky sack with the homeboys after school, but they had to get back to class. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll just walk home. So yeah, that's interesting.
So as we see here right now, you are a software engineer for Microsoft.
That's correct.
So your road went from dropping out of high school to where you're sitting now as, by societal standards, a very successful, accomplished human being, right?
I suppose.
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah. So then were you in that weed smoking, partying, not taking a whole lot of responsibility section of your life for a long period of time? Like, did that go through your mid 20s, or was that just during your high school years and then you started working?
No, it was. I mean, I was working in unison, but I've always been the party animal, and so it. I don't know. Yeah, I just felt like I could be more myself if I'm in that environment, and so I have always kept that environment pretty close. Obviously there's degrees of that you can get away with when you're in an adult life, but um, yeah, yeah, into my early 30s, right? Like for sure.
So was your kryptonite weed and alcohol, or was there other stuff too?
What do you mean when you say kryptonite?
What was the substance that was
Oh
on
yeah,
your consciousness?
yeah. Constant alcohol and marijuana. Absolutely,
So
like
no,
those are the staples.
nothing harder than that, like
I mean, a
coke.
few. No,
Yeah.
I did do. Yeah, later, right before I left high school, we did a lot of acid. We did a lot of mushrooms. That was pretty much it. I never really got into. I never did any needle drugs. There was never any. I think I did cocaine once, but it wasn't my jam. And so, yeah, that was pretty much it.
So at some point you moved out, or you left.
Yeah, I left when I was well. That's another interesting thing. So it had evolved so fast and so furiously that my parents obviously had no idea what to do. And I've said this 1,000 times, but as a parent looking back now, I don't even know what like. I'm blessed that I don't have these problems maybe yet, or I haven't seen them anyways in the way that I experienced them in my own children. So that's fantastic. But I could see how they were just like, what are we going to do? And so I ended up, they committed me basically to, what do you call it? Foster care. So I went to the foster care program.
At what age?
17. It was
Okay.
It was like a year out of being 18, because I remember thinking when I'm 18, I'm out of here. Right. And so, yeah, I went through two different homes I lived at in foster care. And then when I turned 18, I moved to Florida. So I just left all of this behind and moved away.
And then you just started doing enough to work to care for yourself, to provide for yourself.
Yeah, pretty much after that, I moved to Florida and I screwed up my life pretty good financially down there for a year, and then worked, obviously. But
in what capacity? Were you gambling or?
No, I was just bouncing checks. Like I just didn't even care. I didn't care about anything. So get an account and we'll just float this until. But it was interesting because I like had an apartment and I had a job, and we always had money to drink beer, and so I don't know. I think it was just that unmedicated, which is kind of an interesting thing for me to think about too. But it's so, what's the spontaneous? Is that the word? It's like they're like, you can't see consequences until they're chasing you down, and then you're like, oh, I could see how that would happen. And so it was like, I remember clearly calling the bank and just knowing that I've been digging this hole, and I would call the bank to see what my balance wasn't, and they would say some crazy number, and I was like, oh my god, like I'm never getting out of this, right? But I would continually just dig that hole, like there was no repercussions, or there was
You're so far in, why bother trying to dig out now?
Yeah, but like I kept doing it, so I don't. There was some kind of behavior there that was just self-defeating, and I mean, I knew that it was getting worse and worse and worse, but I had no way to get out of it, and so yeah. But I clearly remember that, and then I moved back here. So I spent a year there, and then I broke up. I moved down there with that girl I was talking about. They used to go meet at the end of school. I went down there with her and her mother, and then that lasted for about a year. She hooked up with some other guy, and I was like, forget about this. And so I left there and I came back, and then I lived with my parents for a minute, tried to get my financials back in some kind of, they helped me get, pay off all these creditors and all this other stuff. And then, and then I met the mother of my daughter shortly thereafter. Yeah. And then when I had my daughter, that's kind of where the other shift happened. So I was still pretty careless in the fact that I didn't, go ahead.
So up until the birth of your first daughter, you were still partying,
absolutely,
full binge, and get after it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, work until 5 o'clock, and then drink until 2 o'clock. Yeah, right. Just rinse and repeat. Yep. And then once I realized I don't like children, so let me be clear about that. I dislike infants, like they just irritate the hell out of me. Like there's nothing you can do to console them, and like especially if you're not prepared to have one, that probably made it 1,000 times worse. But when my daughter came, I was like, I'm really gonna have to do something now because it's not just me, right? Like, oh, well, that's fun until you wake up and you're hungover, and then your daughter's crying, and that's not her fault. Like, you should be a better parent. And so that's kind of when things in my mind kind of began to shift in a way that was away from that more, me centered. It wasn't selfish, but it was more like I want to do what I want to do because I haven't been able to do what I want to do for so long, or I've always felt oppressed in this way. And so that's where things started happening in that respect.
Where do you think that like foundation for responsibility was laid? Was that the way you were raised when you were a kid, or the way you saw your family operate? There's something in you that said, "Yo, I gotta dot my I's and cross my T's here."
Yeah, I was raised with, like I told you, I was raised with both sets of my grandparents and my parents,
Yep.
right? And all my uncles, all my aunts, and everybody, they're all decent people. They're like, there's none of them that are really like, whoa, you're never going to see
Yep.
crazy Uncle Tom again. You know what I mean? Like everybody was pretty tight knit. But in that, I think that you learn a lot of, maybe not directly, but you definitely glean a lot of different mannerisms of the values that people operate under, right? So like my
So
grandpa,
there was modeling of that
yeah,
for you. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
but I was always against that. That's the thing.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you,
Yep.
you guys want me to conform, so I'll be damned if I'm going to do that. But
Yeah.
all the while, I still watched it happen, right?
Yep.
And so, yeah, so I definitely grabbed those things like, a good work ethic. We're accountable. We have integrity. Like all of those things were definitely always there. So I don't want to paint the story that I came from some broken home and everything was. I mean, it wasn't a glorious place. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it was. I'm privileged to have that many people in my backstory that it definitely helped mold me in that way.
It seems to me from the conversations that we've had, whether you are cleaning floors or whatever it is else that you're doing, that a work ethic was there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Do what you say you're going to do. Absolutely. I mean, that was my grandpa's and my dad's teaching. It was like, don't say you're going to do something if you're not going to do it. And we've said this before, if you're not going to do it or you didn't make it, then you need to make sure that there's clear ownership and understanding, or at least a communication of why that didn't happen and how you're going to do better. So I think that was always, yeah.
And this introspective mindset that I see in you every single conversation we have, when you're looking into yourself, you're owning yourself, you are trying to be, a better version of yourself. Was that always there, or was that one of the things that kind of kicked into gear once your first child was born?
I don't know. I think it was different in the way that it manifested. So I was always trying to be more funny, or I was always trying to be more impactful for a group of people I was around based on what I thought they wanted. So in that way, like I was kind of playing to the band, but I think I was learning the skills of metamorphosis, right? Like you have to be able to be adaptive, or else you're not going to make that. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but I definitely remember that. But it wasn't to a point where I was like had this thirst for knowledge or this ponderance of self-reflection. That was never really anything that was there.
Yeah. Because I only speak from personal experience when I tell you that you add value to my life, and I'm certain that there's many other people in your life for whom you would add value. So, when do you remember starting to feel that you were a person that could add value to other people's lives, and where did that lead you?
I don't know if I've ever really felt that way. I have a hard time connecting emotion with action. And so when I think about that question, I think, did I do that intentionally, or did I just do that because do things that helped other people or that they saw beneficial because it was interesting for me to see the result? Does that make sense? That's a hard one to get out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to put those two things together. Like I don't know.
Hard question.
Yeah.
It's a hard question. Where I'm trying to make the connection is seeing you as this person that is just cut from a different cloth from many people I know, in your willingness to do the mental work. Like, you are willing to get uncomfortable to learn more about yourself. You're willing to put yourself in many zones of discomfort. You're willing to dive deep into the thing that feels the least comfortable. And I'm wondering about that. Like, because that's where I see the savant in you.
Yeah, that really started at work, probably 7 years ago. So I remember reading a book. No, it goes back to that same point. There was a manager I had at Microsoft. His name was Chris Burrows. He put me in a situation. No, he didn't put me there. I put myself in a situation that raised his eyebrow because he knew that I was at a point of failure or stagnation. And we've talked about this, so I'll kind of hurry it along.
So this is fast forward to when you started working at
No,
Microsoft.
this is fast
Okay.
forward to 7 years ago, right? So I've already been there for a long time, or for a long
Oh,
enough,
okay.
right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, but this is the point where I realized that there could be a different way to lean into something that will eventually give you an opportunity or a lesson if you're willing to look for it. And so he gave me this opportunity to do this unique thing within work, and it scared the hell out of me. Like, completely scared the hell out of me. I was like, well, it's pretty much, it's either this avenue that he's given me, go explore that, or you're not going to work here anymore. And that's scary because all these people depend on you. And so I went off the cliff into
People
this.
depend on you, as in you're providing for your family, or your coworkers depend on you at the work.
I was more concerned about myself and my family, right?
Okay.
I make a lot
Yep.
of money. I'm going to have to keep this going. What am I going to do if I don't
Yeah.
have this, right?
Okay. Yep.
And so I jumped off of this, you know, cliff into the dark. And that's kind of where I realized that even though it's scary, and even though you're not prepared, maybe at the point where the opportunity arises, like there's no way you can anticipate this thing that's coming. And then when it appears, your resolve is really deterministic of which way you go. And so even if you look at it like rock bottom, because clearly it's, I'm going to go fail and be, seen as a failure monetarily or whatever for my family, or feel that way myself, or you have this other unknown. And so I was like, well, I kind of know what's going to happen down there. I'm not going to feel very good. So we're going to walk away from that. We're going to go into what I clearly don't know anything about. And I'm going to go over here. And so what I found in that was something that I had not expected. And I think that the result of that was an unwinding of kind of all of the things that I held as truth that weren't really true. And so that was the point where I started looking at things like, with that curiosity of, well, but is that true? Because how would you know, or how could you anticipate going a route that you have no idea about? You know what I mean? Like, how can you can't know what you don't know, but you also have no idea of learning it if you don't go there. So that's where I really learned to lean into that. And then as that was going, I found stoicism. I found like all these different books about, getting uncomfortable, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I really realized that you can, for my learning style, the best way for me to learn the fastest. Yeah, I learn more efficiently when I'm always riding that razor's edge of I don't know, and I could fall on the side of I don't know, or it's going to cut me and I'm going to fall back, but I'm going to get back up and be on that edge constantly. And that's where I try to aim myself now, is just maintaining that edge and everything I can do.
So that was like a self-search. Like, I'm going to go out and find books that are going to help me. I'm going to try to surround myself with people that might help me with this.
That's when those kind of ideas, absolutely. Surround yourself with the 5 people, right? Like all those things kind of descended on me at one time. And it went from, I've heard these things before and kind of was like, that's complete horseshit, to the point where I was like, oh no, wait, these people are actually saying something. There's something here. And if you lean into that, there's a lot more you can learn here, as opposed to just going back to what you've always done that hasn't served you to do anything. And so that's kind of
okay. All right. Yeah. So that's what we're getting at right there. As I know, if we dug deep enough, we'd get there. So in layman's terms, because I'm not a tech guy, what was the thing that he was asking you to do that you were scared to do?
He was asking me to go blindly into something, to learn something new that I had no idea if I can learn, basically, is what it was. So,
and it was a skill on the computer.
It was
program or something.
Well, the tricky part about Chris is they mask it. Like everything at work is like in these teams, right? And all these teams own features, and these features are things that go into, like, say, the software that you see, right? And so I had always been a guy that did this one thing, always that guy. And I'd become complacent and comfortable in being that person. And he offered me the other side, which was, why don't you go into something you know nothing about and see what happens? And like, oh, okay, well, let me go do that. And so it was completely something different than what had been holding me back, quote unquote, because of my own complacency, right? And so when I went into that darkness, I realized not only can I learn almost anything if I put my effort into it and if I'm interested in it, but there are people on the other side of that, perhaps down in that dark, that are willing and available to give of themselves to help you find that. And that was really the catalyst. I was like, wow, there's people down here. And those people are like, hey, you want to work it out? We'll work it out, see what happens. And I never felt that before at work. And I was like, wow, cool. Yeah, let's do that. And then everything just kind of blossomed from there.
And that overflowed into all aspects of your life.
Everything. Absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And then everything after that was steeped in synchronicity. Like, oh, suddenly I'm, at night I'm over there and I'm pounding out how to do this thing that I don't have no idea about. And I go into my coworker's office and there's a book about mindfulness and I pick it up and I read the back and it's like I'm like reading my own resume. And I'm like, oh, I got to read this book. That's how I got into mindfulness. And so like all the people I started to meet, all the things I started to do, they just started to click in a way that I'd never felt before. And it was just felt like it was drawing me towards a different person instead of languishing in something that I had been in for so long.
I really appreciate you opening up and sharing. It is really cool to hear about how you went from A to B and how you hit every letter in between and probably a different order than they were meant to be.
Sometimes.
Or meant to be. That's something we could talk about.
Or have.
But it was awesome. Thank you. And it's so cool to have heard going from third grade to where you are now and to see the savant that you are, as my superintendent put it. And I think that is just an awesome way to describe you in that regard. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for exploring with me. If you have any questions, you let him know. Where I could be
for everybody out there, we so very much appreciate your ears. We thank you for your time and we're grateful for your attention. We are the Schooling Struggle Podcast. We are out.
See ya.